Hey, we're launching a new message series today. It's going to go on for a few weeks that we're calling It's Not You, It's Me. And this is a relationship series. This is really about romantic relationships. And here's where this comes from, right? My heart's desire, the heartbeat, kind of the heart behind this series is that I want you to have happy and fulfilled relationships. I want you, if you're married, I want you to have an amazing marriage. I want it to be life-giving and so full of hope and so full of love. And if you're single and dating and want to be married, I want you to make decisions now that will set you up so that when you are married that you will have amazing relationships. I want you to have great relationships. And here's the reality. We're all writing the story of our life. Like our life is happening in front of our eyes. And I want you to write a great story. And so who is this for? This is for those of us who are in romantic relationships. If you're married, this is for you. This is for those of us who want to be or long to be. Maybe one day you dream about dating and you long to be married. This is also for students, even for students who are years away from as a parent, hopefully years away from being in a romantic relationship, right? But the decisions you are making now are shaping your future. Now, let's just kind of start here. Marriage in our culture, right? Marriage in our culture, it gets a bad rap, right? It's kind of like, oh, marriage, but it's not with me. Like, I'm pro-marriage. I think marriage can be the most loving and most life-giving thing. In fact, this February, in a few months, I will have been married for 12 years. And it's better now in year 12 than it was in year 1, right? And that's my wife. And I can honestly say that besides my relationship with Jesus, it's the best thing that's happened to me. I would not be the person I am today if it wasn't for my wife. My wife is amazing. She's our rock. She keeps things together. She's an amazing wife. She's an amazing mom. And it's not perfect. It's not all perfect, not flowers and rainbows every day, but it is an amazing thing. And so I believe that marriage can be amazing. And despite what your experience is, despite what Netflix tells you, I think marriage can be amazing, can be life-giving and fulfilling. And so this is what this message series is all about. And here's the reality. As a pastor, I hear so many heartbreaking stories, right? And I sit down with people and I hear so much of the pain and so much of the sadness. And it breaks my heart. And so the goal of this, the reason that we're doing this, is that I want us just to let's take a real and honest look. Let's spend a few weeks here and go, what is it? Like, what is it that keeps us? What keeps us from having happy and fulfilled romantic relationships? And if you're married, like, what keeps you from having an amazing marriage? And if you're single and want to be married, like, what keeps you from finding that person and having an amazing marriage? And if you're dating, what keeps you from having a healthy and a no regrets dating life? And here's the thing. In all the years I've been doing this, I have never seen a marriage problem. You know what I've seen? I've seen plenty of marriages with problems, but never a marriage problem. See, what I see is individuals with problems who get married. And there's these individuals, right? And they have problems, and they get married, right? And they have issues, and they have habits and addictions and debt and wrong ways of thinking and baggage, and they get married. And what happened, it seems so obvious, but why do we not get this? What happened is that the past somehow sneaks into the present, and it begins to destroy the future. The past, it sneaks into the present, and it begins to destroy the future. And what I've discovered is that people with problems, with addictions, with habits, they get married, and all of a sudden these problems get into the marriage and they have trouble in their marriage. And here's what happens, right? And if you're single, you should really listen up to this, because you've got a chance to think a little differently. Here's what happens to many married people. And the reason that married people get into so much trouble is that they get married, they believe a myth, right? And I get why we believe this myth. They believe a myth. And here's what I'm going to call the myth. You'll see it on the screen. I call the myth the right person myth. Okay, and here's kind of how the right person myth goes. It goes something like this. If I marry the right person, then everything will be all right. Or another way you could maybe phrase this is, when I meet the right person, when I find the right person, when I meet the right person, and then everything is going to be okay. And here's what happens, is how do you know? Like, how do you know that you've met the right person? Like, how do you know? Well, it's chemistry, right? You ever heard something like this? Like, oh, well, we can just talk. We can just talk for hours. Or it's just so easy. The conversation comes so easy. And I can't stop thinking of him. You heard this? I can't stop thinking about him. Or I can't stop thinking about her. Or I can't take my mind off of him. Or he can't take his mind and other things off of me. Right? Have you heard this? Right? It's chemistry. Right? It's chemistry. And so you have this chemistry, this connection, right? And what happens is this whole intimacy thing starts going, and this physical thing starts going, and this sex thing starts going. And it's the greatest thing in the world. We just have chemistry. I've met the right person. And since I've met the right person, everything's just going to be okay. And the other person's thinking the same thing. And these people that have these great chemistry and this great passion, right? What happens is everything gets going so well. And like, oh, we're just made for each other. I've met my soulmate. This is so unique. Our relationship is one of a kind. And they're absolutely convinced of this. And so they get married. And what happens? The problem is all they had was chemistry. Right? They didn't know very much about relationships because they thought, well, if I just meet the right person, I don't have to be good at relationship. Right? And this is called the right person myth. But we're set up for this. Like we're set, okay, I have a young daughter, and she is so into like the whole Disney princess thing, right? I never told her to get into this. I never said you should get into the princesses. She just starts wearing the dresses and doing all the things. And so I've become, you can judge me later, but I have become reacquainted with all the Disney princesses movies, right? I've watched them all in the last couple of years. I've seen them all so many times I could quote them to you. Right? But think about these. Cinderella, right? Beauty and the Beast, Belle. Oh, yeah, she's great. Jasmine, right? Aladdin. You think about Robin Hood and Maid Marian. You think about all of these princesses, right? What happens? It's a fairy tale. It's like one day I'll meet my Prince Charming, right? He's out there somewhere and there's whatever crazy story to get to him. And when I meet him, right, I will meet my Prince Charming and we'll get married and we'll live happily ever after. Have you noticed that all of those movies, they all end at when they meet and happily ever after? They don't tell the rest of the story. It ends there, right? All the story, they end there, right? So we're set up. My little girl's growing up thinking, one day I'll meet my prince. Right? She's thinking this and she's twirling in her dress and doing her hair. And I'm going, yeah, and I'm going to kill that Prince. No, I'm just, sorry, that's also. But we're set up, right? And we just think, well, love will just keep us, and passion. We got chemistry, which, this is so, no one has love like this, right? And we're set up for this. But then what happens? We get married, we get into the relationship, and all of a sudden, we find trouble. And this chemistry that we started with, it begins to suffer. And what was so passionate and so sexual and so awesome suddenly begins to die. And the guys gets really, again, this shows the intelligence of guys, right? The guy starts to get confused because he's thinking, well, all we got to do is just have more sex, right? Because sex is like a wrench. It just fixes everything. We'll just have more sex, and it'll fix it. And the girl's like, no, that's not how it works. And all of a sudden, the thing that holds them together, the chemistry, it starts to die because they're no good at the relationship because we bought into this myth, right? If I find the right person, everything will be okay. And this is what this even gets funnier, right? Is then somebody in the relationship, usually the wife, goes, you know what? I got an idea. I know how we can fix this. I know we can get closer. Let's have a baby. Well, that's brilliant. Let's bring another life into this dysfunctional relationship. This sounds like a really good idea. And of course, the guy's going, well, that means we got to have sex, so that sounds like a good idea, so we should just go for that, all right? And so the couple, they decide, we're going to fix this. And here's another statistic, right? And this is really sad, but did you know that there are a couple of times, there's research on this, there are a couple of times in the life of a married man when he is most tempted and most vulnerable to have an affair. You know what the top two are, or one of the top two is? Is when his wife is pregnant. And you're thinking what I'm thinking, what scumbag. Right? Why would you go out and have an affair when your wife is pregnant trying to fix the relationship? And I'm telling you, this happens all the time, and we're going to, in part 3 of this series, we're going to go there. But right, so now we have people who don't know anything about relationships, and their passion that was so passionate, now it's gone, and now there's another human, and no one's sleeping. And guess what? The wheels are off at this point. Right? And that's how it works. And then all of a sudden, he's at work one day, and all of a sudden he sees the right person. And he thinks to himself, well, you know why my marriage doesn't work? I married the wrong person. That's the right person. She was here at the office all along. What was I thinking? And then she's one day scrolling through her social media feed, and she sees, oh, I used to date that guy. Remember prom? That was so much fun. You know what's wrong with my marriage? I married the wrong person. And do you know why most second marriages actually have a higher failure rate than first marriages? It's because married people are dumb, right? They think that they can do the same thing again and get a different result. But the same thing again just resolves in the same result. And I just want you to know something. And again, this is the heart behind why we're doing this. I want you to know something. It doesn't have to be this way. Right? We're having fun and we can laugh, but it doesn't have to be this way. This doesn't have to be your future. The handwriting is not on the wall. In fact, there's something different. There is something better. I believe there is happy and fulfilling and loving and lasting marriage and relationships. But you know what? Our culture doesn't celebrate it. It doesn't get any airtime. I mean, you're not going to find like a series on Netflix, right? That's like the best, greatest marriages of all time, right? And I'll tell you why. It's not that culture is against great marriages. It's not that culture is against great relationships. It's just they're boring. They're boring. It's not good TV. I mean, you know, if someone said, you know, Greg, I want to do a reality TV show on your marriage. First of all, I would say no. But if you did it, right? Like, who wants to watch that? Like just one day after another of just an extraordinary relationship, day after day. Two happily married people. Like, wow, look at them. They're talking. Adult conversation. Wow, dinner around the table. That is, wow, right? Look at that. They're walking through the neighborhood holding hands. They're going on vacation together. They're doing date nights together. They're laughing at his silly jokes. Isn't this amazing? And who wants to watch married people having sex? Right? No. Right? It's boring. It's not good TV. See, the problem is that great marriages and great relationships, they get no airplay because they're just not entertaining. And our culture, right, so entertainment crazy, right? We want to see all the trouble and we want to see all the drama and the affairs and the junk. And I get it, right? I get it. But don't believe that reflects reality. And you're like, oh, Greg, man, that's okay. I hear you're being funny, but no, I would never buy into that. I like the show, but I would never buy into that. But if you date with the mindset that if I find the right person, everything will be all right, or if I meet the right person, everything will be all right, then you've bought into this fairy tale. You've bought into the Disney princess story. You've bought into the right person myth. And it's a lie that gets told over and over and over again. And I think there's a better way. There's a better way. And so today, in just a few minutes, what I want to try to do is I want to try to give you an idea. And I'm hoping you can begin, again, this is just part one, we got several weeks. I hope you can begin just to wrap your hands and your hearts around this idea. And here's the contrast that I want to try to paint for you in a few minutes this morning. Is instead of finding the right person, which everything points to, right? The question I would ask is, are you becoming the right person? Finding the right person versus becoming the right person. See, most people I know, right, they spend a ton of energy, especially in their 20s and their days when they're trying to get married, right? They spend a ton of energy in trying to find the right person, right? There's tons of apps on this, there's websites, like everything points to, if I could just find, the 21 different matches, and if all these line up, then the right person will, right? It's all of this energy and effort toward finding the right person, but I find very few people that spend time and energy and effort on becoming the right person. Like, how do I prepare? Like, how do I prepare myself to be good at relationships? How do I prepare myself? You know, one of my friends recently told me this story, and it really hit home. There was a girl named Tara. He tells me the story, and he says that Tara, she was, good kind of typical story. She grew up in a religious home. They went to church occasionally, and maybe more than that, Sunday school. But it was never like a big deal to her. You know, just kind of like, well, I'll go through the motions. I'll go check that off and then go do my thing. And so she goes through high school and college. And after college, she finds herself kind of in the scene, right? The typical scene you see, it's in every movie, it's in our city, right? The dating scene, the party scene, like where are you going to be on Friday night? Where are you going to be on Saturday night? Let's just kind of get out there and see what's going on. And he tells the story that one day she was at this event, this work event, and she meets this guy. And this guy, in her words, was the total package. I mean, he had the whole thing, right? He had the looks, he had the job, he had the maturity. And she began having this conversation with this guy, and it became clear as she's having this conversation with this guy that this guy was a serious Jesus follower. I mean, not just like a, yeah, I'm into that, but no, like a serious Jesus follower, that he was following Jesus with his life, and it affected the way that he viewed life, it affected his relationships, it affected the way that he used his words. And Tara, this girl, was just blown away by this guy. And she never met anybody like this. And she couldn't stop thinking about him, and she couldn't stop talking about him. And one day she was sitting with her mom, and she was like, Mom, this guy, you got to know about this guy. He's just so handsome, and he's so nice, and he actually has a job, and he's mature, and he's respectful. And Mom, he's just like you. He's like a real Jesus follower, not like a pretend, but like a serious Jesus follower. And her mom very lovingly, very graciously looked at her, said, Tara, the problem is, a guy like that is not looking for a girl like you. And it's broke her heart. And she wept. But the story, a good part about the story is that became a turning point in her life. You see, it's not about finding the right person, but rather it's about becoming the right person. I mean, are you, if you're single, right, and you're looking, you look in the mirror, are you the kind of person that you're looking for? Like, well, I want them to do this and this and that and that and that. Like, are you that kind of person? Are you the type of person that you want to date? If you're married, I mean, are you the type of spouse that well, I want my spouse to do this, and they got to do this, and they need to do, like, are you the kind of person that you want to be married to? It's not about finding the right person, rather it's about becoming the right person. Now, God says a lot about relationships. In fact, I believe we were created by God to be in relationship. God created marriage. God created sex. There's this desire in all of us, right? I believe a God-given desire. You want to be loved. You want to be desired. You want to be wanted. You want to be respected. You want to be adored. You want to come home after work, right, and have somebody that is happy that you're there and it's not your pet, right? You want that, right? Right? You want to be. You want someone that wants to spend time with you. You do, I do, right? It's a God-given desire. And here's the funny part. If you study Jesus and the teachings of Jesus, Jesus says nothing, zero, about finding the right person. But Jesus says a lot about becoming the right person. And if you study Jesus and the life of Jesus in the New Testament and the authors of the New Testament, they have a lot to say about becoming the right person. Now today, in just a few minutes, I just want to give you just a little bit of a vision, a little bit of a picture of what it looks like to be in a great, fulfilling, loving relationship. And there's a guy named Paul who was a guy who wrote a lot of the New Testament. He was a guy that wasn't a believer, and he had this encounter with Jesus, and then he helped start all these churches. And he would write these letters to the church, and he would give them instructions, and he would say, listen up. If you want to know what it's like to follow Jesus, to be in real, healthy, whole relationships, here's what it is. And so in one of his letters he wrote to the church in Corinth, he wrote this letter and he says, hey, this is what it means to be in good relationships. This is what it means to be in a great marriage. And he paints a picture for this, and it's found in 1 Corinthians chapter 13. In fact, if you're familiar with the Bible, you know that 1 Corinthians 13 is called the what? Yeah, no one knows. All right, I quit, man. No, I'm just kidding. It's called the love chapter, right? It's called the love chapter. And there's this entire list. I don't have time to go through the entire list. I'm just going to kind of pick a little bit of it this morning. But in 1 Corinthians 13, he picked, like, this is what true love is, right? Not what you see on Netflix, not on Amazon Prime. This is like true love. In fact, I would encourage you this afternoon, you can read through the entire thing. In fact, you can steal the Bible on your chair. It's on page 785. But in just a minute, I just want to run through just a little bit of this, okay? And so here's what he writes. He's writing this. He's saying, listen up. Listen up, single people. Listen up, married people. Here's what love is. 1 Corinthians 13, 5 is here. First thing he says is this. Love is patient. I'm just practicing. Right? Love never pressures the other person. It's not pushy. Love waits. Oh, that's a word we hate. Love waits on the other person. Love pushes me to give you more time for stuff than I planned on. It gives you space. I give you time. I give you margin. In fact, I would say to you, especially some of you who are dating, right? If you're in a relationship where someone is pushing you, they're being pushy, they're pressuring you, well, why don't you? Well, what are we waiting on? Why can't you? If someone's pushing you, you better pay attention to that, because that's not love. They're not loving you. Patience, right? Here's the thing about patience. You don't just flip a switch and become patient. Like, what happens with patience? It's developed over time, right? It takes time. And so if you're single and you want to be married one day, you can start working on patience now in the relationships that you're in. Love is patient. Here's the next one. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love is kind. There it is. Kind. It's kind of a wimpy word, right? Kind. But really, what this means is considerate. It means, hey, you take into consideration how the other person feels all the time. Like, how do you feel? Considerate. Keep going. It does not want to belong to others. It does not want to belong to others. Another version of this says envy. You know what envy is? Envy. In fact, I would say this. Envy is one of the big reasons that your parents split up. Envy. Envy does this. It says something like this. I don't feel so good about me, so I can't let you feel good about you. So I'm going to drag you down. You see this all the time in relationships and marriage, right? One person starts to get successful, one person gets promoted, one person starts to get recognized, right? And the other person don't. And so all of a sudden, like, well, I don't feel so good about me because you're getting all the recognition. And so I got to make you feel bad. I got to try to pull you down. And this is a problem. Some of us deal with this problem because of the way we were raised, because of the model that we were modeled, right? This is a problem. And here's what happens with envy. Here's what happens with this. Is it destroys relationships. This destroys marriages. This destroys relationships, right? And somehow you got to let God root this out of you. You got to find a new way. And again, this doesn't come naturally, right? This doesn't come easy. But envy will destroy relationships. I'll keep going. Does not want belong to others. It does not brag. It is not proud. Again, he's just given this list. Here's what true love is. It doesn't boast. It's not proud. This is what makes a good relationship. In fact, I know this for a fact because I've had conversations with some of you. Some of you just given up on marriage. Like, that's an old idea. That's old-fashioned. I don't know. Man, you should have known my parents. Their marriage was so bad. I don't want anything to do with I don't want any kind of relationship like that. And I would say to you, like, think about your parents, right? If your parents split up, they had a bad marriage. Like, do you think their marriage would have been better if they would actually have listened to what Paul said and actually put it into practice? Like, would their marriage have been better if they'd have been more patient with each other? Like, what if your dad had been more considerate to your mom's feelings? Do you think their marriage would have been better? I mean, for some of you, your dad was so proud, he could never admit he was wrong. Right? Or maybe your mom, she's so proud, she could never admit she was wrong. I mean, do you think what Paul is teaching us here could have changed their relationship? Could have changed their marriage? I mean, this has affected you. It's affected me. It's your life. It's affected your view. I'll keep going. Doesn't brag, doesn't boast. Next one says this. It does not dishonor other people. You could say it this way. It does not cause regret. It does not cause regret. Are you part of someone's regret story? See, true love doesn't cause regret. It doesn't behave disgracefully, dishonorably, indecently. Next week, part 2 of this, we're going to kind of deep dive into some of this in detail. But the idea, it doesn't dishonor. In fact, it does the opposite. It honors. Keep going. Verse 5. It does not look out for its own interest. Love, he's saying, love, true love. Again, not Netflix, not Amazon Prime, but love, true love, is not self-seeking. It's not about itself. And again, this doesn't come natural. You know what comes naturally? Passion. chemistry. Give me some of that, right? That comes naturally. But Paul is trying to paint a picture for a better way. And he's saying, listen, if you're single, there's a better way. There's a true love. Again, not perfect, but you can have an amazing marriage one day. You can have life-giving, fulfilling relationships. He's saying, hey, if you're married, listen, don't give up. You can have happy, fulfilled, life-giving marriage. You can want to come home from work. You can look forward to being with someone. It's possible. There is a way. There's a better vision. There's a better picture. But he's saying, listen, it starts with you. It doesn't start with them. That's the easy thing. Well, it's her fault, his fault, them. And Paul is saying, no. It starts with you. It's not about finding the right person, right? It's about becoming the right person. It's not about finding. It's about becoming. You know what? Looking in the mirror is not the easiest thing to do, right? It doesn't come natural. It's not fun. And there's certain things we can look in the mirror we can't see, right? But how do you do this? How do you stop going down the finding trail, the Disney princess trail, and how do you start going down the becoming trail? Right? How do you start becoming? Now, there's a lot could be said here, but I would just say to you that it's not too late. Wherever you are in your journey, whatever is your story, wherever you are in your relationships, it's not too late. You can start today. That you're writing the story of your life, and you can write a new story. You can turn the page and start a new chapter, that it's not too late. Here's just some practical things I would say to you, and I'd say to me, that if you want to get serious about this, if you want to become the person you're looking for, the first thing I would say to you is get around people you respect. Get around some people you respect. Like, for example, if you're single, right, and you're in the dating game or want to be in the dating game, right, you should get around someone whose marriage you admire, right? There's someone that's a few steps ahead of you and go, they're not perfect. They're kind of weird sometimes, but I would emulate some of the ways they do marriage. Well, you should get around them, right? But what typically happens is the single 20-something gets around a bunch of other single 20-somethings, and you just have what I call pooled ignorance. Like, hey, what you mean? Like, you don't have a clue. Or you can just exchange stupid ideas back and forth to each other, right? But no, if you really want to learn, you look ahead and go, who is someone, right, that they're married, they've been married for years. Again, not perfect, but I admire their relationship, and so you get around someone. Same thing if you're married and you're like, man, we want a better marriage. We want to love each other more. We want to have a deeper and more fulfilling marriage. Well, what do? Don't turn on Netflix. Go look at someone, right, that's ahead of you, that has a life-giving, fulfilling relationship. Get around them. Get around people you respect. It's a great way to learn. Here's another thing I would say, just again, kind of real practical, is you got to confront your past. You got to confront your past. You can't ignore it. You can't deny it. You got to confront it. Oh, and this gets really deep really quick, right? Oh, this is so not fun. You know what's interesting, and I don't think it was coincidence, is right before, again, this is going on 14, 15 years ago now, the season right before I met Whitney, who became my wife, I had a guy, I'll never forget it. He came up to me one day, we worked together, and he walked up to me one day and he said, Greg, you need counseling. And I said, well, you're about to lose your front teeth. You know, I was just like, that was my first response, but I held back. And, but he was right. And so I went into a season, right, where I spent several months, like half a year, doing some intense therapy and counseling. I was meeting with a Christian counselor, and I was going through a season, and I spent a lot of money, right? But I was doing a lot of work, right? Because there was some baggage, there were some views, there were some myths, there were some lies that I had bought into, and I needed to do some work on me. And I was lucky I had some friends and around that were encouraging me in that, right? Now, I didn't go into that season thinking, well, I'm going to come out of this and find the one, right? But what happened? And again, I don't think it was coincidence. Like a couple of weeks as I'm coming out of that season, I meet Whitney, who becomes my wife, right? You got to go after your stuff. In fact, I came across this quote as I was doing some study for this the past few weeks, right? Because the reality is we all have childhood issues. We all have bought into myths and lies. And here's how this author put it this way. He says, if you attempt to build intimacy with a person before you have done the hard work of becoming a whole and healthy person, every relationship will be an attempt to complete the hole in your heart. Let me say that again. It's so good, right? If you attempt to build intimacy with a person before you, this is the becoming part, you have done the hard work of becoming a whole and healthy person. Every relationship, again, it's you, not them, will be an attempt to complete the hole in your heart, right? You try to make somebody be something they were never intended to be, right? You're trying to make them be something they were never created by God to be. You're putting some kind of expectation on them that will never be fulfilled because that's not who they were created to be. You have to start with yourself. Am I healthy? Am I whole? Am I the kind of person that I want to be in a relationship with? Am I the kind of person I want to be married with? Here's the last thing, and we'll wrap this up. I would say all of this, as we've said, all this kindness, patience, considerate, goodness, self-control, all of this is not natural. This is not natural. This is not your default. You don't move this way. This is going to take hard work. It's going to take going the other way. In fact, I would even say it this way. This is supernatural. I don't believe you can fully do this apart from a loving, authentic relationship with Jesus. That real love, that real patience, that real kindness, that real goodness, that real self-control. In fact, Paul tells us these are fruits of the Spirit. These are results, right, of a real, authentic, dynamic relationship with Jesus. And again, if you're here today and you're like, I don't know, Greg, man, I knew you were going to get around to that stuff, and I don't know about Jesus in the Bible, I'll tell you this. You should really consider Jesus, right? Because I know that Jesus will make your life better and make you better at life. That a real authentic relationship with Jesus will transform your life. And that God wants, He has this desire for you. Like you were created for a relationship, and God wants you to have happy and fulfilled and loving and life-giving relationships and marriages. And that's His desire. The gospel, Jesus will change your relationships. Now again, my desire, the reason we're doing all this is, man, I love being married. I want you to have happy and fulfilled relationships. I am so tired of all the painful, heartbreaking stories. And so we're going to jump in the next couple of weeks, and we're going to start getting into some real issues. And we're going to start getting into issues about how we treat each other. And we're going to have some real talk about sex and how God created sex. And that's all coming up in the next couple of weeks. But today, I want you to know it's not about finding the right person. It's about becoming the right person.
Thanks so much for watching today. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot us an email at hello@miamichurch.com. Also, make sure to subscribe here on our YouTube channel. And if you believe in what God is doing here at Miami Church and you want to support, go to our website and click the big pink Give button at the top right corner. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you soon.